What's up, you guys? This is the Ill Bill, and welcome to the Chill with Bill show. So, I usually stay out of these topics, because my lane is relationships, or at least that's what I'm trying to make my lane. I'm still trying to decide what that is, really. But this Mr. Beast thing. I mean, there's so much craziness happening right now. With the Bud Light situation, Dylan Mulvaney, and now Mr. Beast, and there's been a lot of content going out here. I don't know if y'all know who Mr. Beast is. I'm really not that interested. The guy's been doing YouTube and whatever for a long time and built up a substantial following. I'm talking about substantial in the multi-millions. I wonder what. Hold on a second. Let me see. I should probably have this info, but it's not my thing. So Mr. Beast Beast Reacts. Interesting. That's 23 million subscribers. Like, obviously he's through the roof. I don't know what the rest of his channels are. I'm sure there's a couple of them. Right. The dude has been getting paid on this YouTube thing for a while, and you can tell, right, because his videos start becoming more and more and more extravagant, right? And I think he's done some things like donated shoes. I feel like he did eye surgery for a bunch of people and caught a bunch of flack for that. Anyway, so his content is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The development that goes into the production and stuff is substantial compared to what it used to be, and it's reflected by the amount of viewers that he has. And I believe that this content is for kids mainly because, again, I don't watch it. I'm sure somebody out there does. But now, one of the members of the Mr. Beast team is starting to transition, and a lot of people are, kind of, obviously, we always got people on the left, people on the right, but the issue with this, I suppose, that really has people in an uproar is that Mr. Beast content is aimed at kids. And again, I don't know. I assume young kids watch his content too, right? Because it's good, wholesome content, or at least age considerate, right? But now parents have to decide whether or not they are okay with their kids watching this content that arguably has nothing to do with what one of his cast members, his production members, are going through, and their transition. But this is a big deal, right? It's a big deal because it's your children, and some people care, some people don't. So I'm not gonna play all these little video clippings, although I'm sure a lot of them are interesting. I want to hear, and I think we should check out what Michael Knowles has to say about it. Because while I don't agree with everything that he says, I really like the way he articulates himself about current issues and problems. So let's go ahead and check this out. Matter of fact, do I need to do that? Let's see here. Let's see if we can get it right. There we go. All right, here we go.
Mr. Beast is probably the biggest YouTube channel. His videos get tens of millions, hundreds of millions of views. Mr. Beast's sidekick is a guy named Chris Tyson. Sorry, was a guy named Chris Tyson. I don't say that because he's dead. I say that because he says he's no longer a guy. Chris Tyson is 26 years old, and he has just decided that he is secretly a woman.
26 years old. To each his own. How one wants to live their life, you do you, right? We only have one, and we should all live it however we want to. But at 26 years old, you decide that you are trans, or you know, you identify as a woman. Let's keep it going.
Chris Tyson has made all sorts of jokes about transvestites and transgenderism, and he's mocked the idea of it before. Now, he says, I am transgender. I am a woman. All fun and games, right? We kind of giggle at it. I pity everyone who falls into this confusion. But this is even worse because Chris Tyson is married and has a 2.5-year-old child.
And this is the crazy part, right? Like, we've all heard stories, I assume, of people who have gotten in full-blown marriages and families, right? And then the other partner, let's just say, finds out, or I should say, one of the partners comes out as being gay, as being homosexual, and so that happens, right? Were they always this way? One presumes, right? Maybe due to social standards, fear of a lot of things, fear of the way family may react or outsiders treat them or whatever. They play this part, right? And then at some point, feel the need to come out, right? So we know that happens. Okay. 26 years old, full blown family. Does it happen often? Probably not, but it does happen. So let's just see what else. Let's just keep going.
And he just woke up one day, told his wife, didn't tell his kid, I assume, because the kid's probably just starting to talk, but told his wife, yeah, I'm not going to be your husband anymore because I'm going to be your wife or something. I'm a woman now. So
how do you do that? How, like, I'm having a tough time processing this part, because how do you look at your wife who just 2 years ago, that's very, very, very recent, just gave birth to your baby. I don't know if it's girl or boy, but just gave birth to your baby, went through that whole experience, right? And you've been with this person for presumably an extended period of time. How do you look them in the face and say, you know what, I now, and maybe I've always felt this way, but I now know that I identify as the same thing that you are. That me and you, that I feel more like the way that you probably feel than the way a man should feel. This is, I'm like, I don't understand how that is a thing. And maybe I'm just maybe I'm dense, maybe I'm not as learned, I don't know, but I don't understand how that is possible, and that should be considered normal. This is a normal thing. So let's keep going. I don't know.
Sorry, Sonny, I'm not daddy anymore. I'm mommy now, or I'm something else, but I'm not daddy, whatever that is. And he's catching a lot of flack for this online. Now, in response to that, Chris Tyson has said, informed consent, hormone replacement therapy saved my and many others' lives. The hurdle gender nonconforming people have to jump through to get life-saving, gender-affirming healthcare in a first world country is wild to me. Just let people make informed decisions about their own bodies.
Was his life? Wait, so he's 26 years old, and he was, what was he like? When he says life-saving, was he in danger, or was he like in fear of his life, or potentially, self-deletion or something? I don't understand what that statement means. Like, was he, had he, what does that mean? He's gone through life. He's 26. He's gotten married. He's had kids, right? But somehow his life, he is unable to live his life that way anymore. That I guess I need more clarification, and it might not be up to me to understand, but I'm just trying to figure this out, man.
In a first world country, as if they have these kinds of therapies in non-first world countries. They don't have a lot of these in Zambia, okay? I don't think there's a lot of hormone replacement therapy going on in Namibia, okay?
That may be true, but see, I'm kind of an old fogey, right? So all these things are like new to me, right? I feel like most of this transgenderism and the non-binary and you can choose and all this stuff, this is all recent, right? 6 years, 7 years is when it started getting real serious. But when I was in school, this didn't exist. Certain people tell me that I'm wrong, but I don't recall anybody that I ever grown up with tell me that they thought they were another sex. I definitely know a lot of people who are gay, and that's that is a normal thing to me. That is a standard, like, human interaction, biological preference, whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? Like, that makes sense to me, right? But what has been happening, this is relatively new. Oh, but what I was going to say, though, is I remember in Thailand, the I don't want to be insensitive or anything, but this is what they were called, the lady boy. Right, the lady boy. This existed. What was it? The Hangover 2, or maybe it was 3, Bangkok, all that, whatever. Right? Yeah, if y'all have ever seen that, right? That part, like, that is a comedic sketch about something that I remember hearing about and seeing in, like, movies. Back in my childhood, right, the 80s and the 90s. So it's not complete, it's not like it's foreign, but in the States, in the Western world, it was nowhere near common. And I remember we had drag queens, we had gays, lesbians, right, and swingers, and then heterosexual people, and that was kind of like the standard, right? Standard through high school, standard in college, and in the military, obviously, right? Whatever, but so, and even, I mean, I grew up in Germany too, so I spent 10 years in Frankfurt, Germany, and even though they had the red light district, and there's some weird things going on there, right? Like, it wasn't like it is today, is common and standard of a conversation, right?
But says this is absolutely shocking. This is life-saving treatment. This is the line they always use, and this is the line that the teachers and the doctors use to guilt parents and initiate them into the transgender cult. Is they'll say, "Well, would you rather have a dead son or a living daughter?" Yeah, you got to trans your kid, you got to trans your son, and chop off his genitals and put him onto all these hormones that make him look a little bit more like a girl. Because if you don't, he's going to kill himself, and it's going to be your fault. It's a life-saving treatment. There is no evidence of that. There is no evidence that the transgender transition alleviates anxiety, depression, suicidality.
I agree what he's saying. I don't believe there's any evidence that I've seen that alleviates any of that stuff. Is it possible that that these changes can make you feel better, comfortable living in your own skin? Feel more comfortable living in your own skin? Like, yeah, I guess that's true, because most of that is all mental and how you perceive the world and yourself. But leave the kids alone, though. Right, because children are not able to make these decisions for themselves when you're talking about permanent surgeries that will change their ability to reproduce. Right, never mind there's anything about what bathroom they can go into or what sport they can compete in. We're talking about the ability to reproduce. Right, that it seems like children are nowhere near have the capacity to make this kind of decision, you know, because they have, because they're children, right?
To the contrary, there is lots of evidence that the transgender transition exacerbates the sort of stresses and despair that people are feeling before they go into it. We covered those studies on the show last week. But furthermore, put that aside for a second with this guy, Chris Tyson. The problem here highlights a broader problem within liberalism, within all of modern political thought, which is we think about politics from the perspective of what we can do. It's like Jurassic Park. I know we can do this stuff, but did you ever think if you should do this kind of stuff? We think of it from the perspective of entitlements, and we call those rights. Even when they're things that are manifestly wrong, we still preposterously call those wrong things rights, which is crazy because wrongs cannot be rights. It's right there in the word rights. Regardless, it's not a good way to look at politics. A better way to look at politics, a better way to look at your own identity is not from the perspective of rights and entitlement, but from the perspective of obligation. Not what you are owed, but what you owe to other people. The reason what this guy is doing publicly is wrong is because he has an obligation to his wife to be her husband.
100%. 100% facts right there. Again, like I don't necessarily, I mean, I guess I can't disagree with what he said. I would have to unpack that in my thought process on that obligation thing. Just thinking like, okay, I felt at one point in time I had an obligation to my country to serve my country, and that's the reason why I joined the military. Granted, there were some benefits that I received as well, but that's because it's an even handshake. It's not like you're just doing and you're not getting back, right? But the reason why, I mean, I could have gotten those other benefits going another way. The reason why I chose to go that way is because I had a sense of pride and honor and, and commitment to my country. That's what I felt. I felt that serving would, fulfill some type of role when it comes to protecting my family and the generations that come, next, and honoring those that came before me. Do I believe in that today? That is a tough question because now a lot of things have changed, right? A lot of things in the United States have changed. A lot of leaders, our politics, all the way, the way this stuff, the things that we considered to be important to us, some of that has changed. And I don't necessarily think that all people should feel that obligation that I felt. I wish they did. Don't get me wrong. I wish they did. But there are a lot of reasons to not feel that obligation anymore. Maybe you don't believe in the regime and the structure and the process. You believe that you've been shafted, or we've changed, or that our governing body is different now than what it used to be, and that is your right to do so. Now, in the confines of a marriage, I believe that if you take a vow, then you owe it to your partner to the best of your ability perform the duties that were in that vow. I believe that if somebody like Chris, felt the way that he did, how can you just feel that way at 26? Why didn't it happen before they got married? I mean, he had to have felt his entire life, right? This is not right. You don't just come out and all of a sudden you're just a woman, right? Then at 26 years old, that's the argument that I hear, is that this is a process, right? So at 24 or 23, whenever he got married, I don't know. Did he not go, well, why am I marrying this woman when I really am this way, or feel like you know what I'm saying? Like, even if he didn't have the answers then, right? He's still going through his process. Is there no question? Is there no doubt there? And did he not owe it to her to go into this marriage in good faith, right? Like that's my issue there. I think, that we take we take vows and we take responsibilities, both male and female, or sorry, men and women, right? We'll say it that way. Responsibilities within a relationship. We take those very lightly now. Willy nilly, come and go as you please, right?
Let's just say for a second that he could change his sex and gender. Well, he can't, but let's just say he could. There were some perfect surgery out there that changed all of his DNA, it changed all of his features. I mean, that still wouldn't change his essential identity. But again, let's just go for it. He still would have no right to do it. He took a vow to be her husband.
Oh, wow.
He has a role. He has a job to do.
Like I said, I don't necessarily agree with this guy, and I haven't watched this, but to hear him say what I just said verbatim kind of blows me away. Because again, some of y'all might be like, "Oh, he's so far one way," but
He has a duty, and by neglecting that duty, he is committing a grave injustice against his wife.
Yeah.
Then think about his kid.
Yeah.
He owes it to his kid to be that kid's father.
100%. 100%. Like, again, like I agree with the wife thing. He owes it to her 100%. But yes, he also owes it to his kid to be the best and shining example of what it means to be whatever, right? And so this whole willy-nilly, it's just questionable at best. Like and I know we ain't supposed to question, but I'm just saying, what are your intentions really? Like, is this clout chase? Is this like, finally I can be out of the shadow? Like, what, I just don't understand. At 26, you basically have lived your life as a man. 26 years old. Like, I don't know what you've done. Probably not much, right? Because nothing was required of you. Nothing has been required of this most recent generation, as far as surveying or, even even in school and like these things, right? Like everything's participation trophies, right? So, but he went through basically life as this. And now he wants to choose to go through life as something else. Man, I mean, look, life sucks as a dude sometimes. A lot of times. It's hard work. It's not easy. Would I like my life to be easier? Sure. I'm not going to take hormone replacement therapy and have surgery on my stuff to change it, though. It seems like a weird cop-out. Like I just can't hang this way. And you know what? Again, we only hear these stories a lot of time about men that are doing these transitions, right? Women transitioning to men. We don't really hear this story in the same manner, right?
That's his role. That's his job. That's his duty. He doesn't have the right to shirk that duty. In pursuing his sexual fetish, he is denying his son what his son is owed, namely.
So, sorry, I should just let him keep talking.
A father. That's wrong, and we all do this.
Yeah. Okay. So that's my issue. So now also you have a son, right? So you have a responsibility not only to your offspring to give him the best possible chance to be able to live the fullest possible life he can possibly live. He, son, right? You, instead of being this shining example and helping him get to that level where not ultimately you make the world a better place, right? Now you've introduced this huge question mark and these like weird variables. And if you're being disingenuous about it, right? Again, at 26 years old, it seems weird, seems a little odd. But if you're being disingenuous about it, now it's like some perverted manipulation of, what happens to be, current event, right? Like and if your wife didn't sign up for any of this, you know what I'm saying? Like, I guess it's one thing if she knew that, you know, and she was playing along this entire time, then, you know, kudos for her, right? But if she didn't know anything about any of this, man, and you just hitting her with the broadside of a barn, yo, that's wild. That's wild that you can do this. And oh man, it better. I mean, if it's for clout, yo, that's crazy, yo.
We don't all go trans, but we all in modern life, we tend to shirk our duties. We say, oh, who cares about my community? Who cares about the common good? Oh, who cares about my family? Oh, who cares? And we make everything so cold and clean and clinical and individualistic. It's not just the left that does that. It's the right that does that too. And you see this reflected in no-fault divorce. You see this reflected in the weakening of the American family, even between generations. You see this in the below replacement birth rate. You see this in the the total loss of civic life and responsibility. We just forget our obligations. But we all have obligations to our duty. Now, I mentioned that this guy, just at age 26, one day decided, okay, I'm gonna become a woman. Where does this come from? We talk about how, well, maybe it's just this mental health condition called gender dysphoria. Or we say, well, maybe.
But what do you mean? You just got it at 26? Is it the power lines? Like, what causes gender dysphoria at 26? What causes you to feel like you are the opposite sex at 26 years old? Or have you just been lying this entire time, right? Like, I understand, you know, back in the day, again, like, I didn't have this kind of thing growing up, but there were a lot of people who were gay, and coming out was a very, very difficult thing. It could be even dangerous back then, right? Depending on your family or your social setting or whatever. So a lot of people didn't come out until they're older, you know, and a lot of people played the role, right, however they could, and you know, had this outside facade or whatever, or doing things on the back, you know what I mean? Like that was kind of what was going on, right? So my question is, okay, so for 26 years you've been playing this role, and now just that it's okay, so now you can come out and be like, you know what, I actually do identify as a woman. I've just been, you know, having to play the role this entire time, right? Like, okay, you know, and I don't know if that's the case, but, you know, let's just say that that is the case. What kind of person are you that makes a vow with a woman under these false pretenses, right? You don't give her all the information. You don't, like, this isn't, you have a kid with this person, right? Like that again. And so if this is how you feel about your own family, right? What kind of representation are you on TV for my children? You know what I mean? For other people's families, right? Like, is that that's where I draw the issue, right?
Maybe it's a true identity that they've been just suppressing their whole lives. Or we say, well, maybe now because it's out there in the culture, right, people are more open-minded to it and they consider what they previously hadn't even considered, which is a little more plausible than the biological explanation. But there's one explanation that people aren't really talking about, that I actually have to go to feminist websites like the Feminist Current to see anybody talking about, which is porn. Porn, according to many writers, according to many people who have looked into this a lot more closely than I have, porn is playing a huge role in the surge of transgenderism. We know that porn is ubiquitous in the culture. Unless you are actively pursuing a discipline not to look at pornography,
right,
and you are a man, chances are you are looking at pornography in this culture. Porn rates among men are like over 90% or something. And the age at which young men are exposed to this is, on average, I think 11. And that's an older statistic. I think it's actually declined since then.
Look, I want to say, I agree with him. Absolutely. And I saw the transition, right? Because when I was a kid, it was Penthouse, and occasionally there were like, some VHS cassettes. I remember there was this video store that I used to go to when I was a kid. VHS cassettes, right? And you could go in and you could rent all the movies, all the current movies, and they used to have this curtain, this beaded curtain, right? And it was just like a little closet, and if you open the curtain, it was like porn all along the wall, right? Like VHS, right? And like that's what it was when I was a kid. And this was prior to the internet. This prior to AOL, Instant Messenger, all that. You know what I mean? Once the internet came, like it put those stores out of business for sure. But I'm interested how he's going to tie this in right here, because I agree, most men look at porn. I don't agree that most men want to become women because they look at porn. But let's keep it
So
going.
Feminist Current writes, why isn't anyone talking about the influence of porn on the trans trend? In recent years, trans pornography has soared in popularity. According to Pornhub's metadata, both trans and transgender porn searches have more than quadrupled in the 3 years between 2014 to 2017, and by 2018, trans was ranked the 5th highest search term of the year. Now,
That may be true, and I'm going to let him continue on here. But I just got to throw this out. Is that because a lot of people look at it like a damn science experiment? They're like, what's going in here? Is it in? Is it an out? Is it how is the surgeries get? Like, is that, what I mean? Is that why? Or is it because people are genuinely turned on by weird concoctions of men and women combinations, right?
Informed of this a few years ago by a reporter colleague of mine here at the Daily Wire, who said, Michael, have you heard about this kind of transgender porn called hypnosis porn? And I said, nope, haven't heard about that one. Tell me about it. And she had gone on some deep dive, hadn't watched it, but had read about it. And she said, it's this kind of pornography where when people fall into it, it just totally scrambles their brain, more so than even other kinds of pornography, and it can lead to a rapid onset feeling of gender dysphoria.
What?
So I said, okay, well, I'm curious. I don't want to look up the porn for a couple of reasons. One, because that would be wrong to do, and I don't want to expose myself to that, and I don't want to then have to, then I have to miss lunch the next day so I could go to confession. It's just, and it's a busy week, so I didn't want to do that. But I did look through forums of people talking about this and articles in places like the Feminist Current. And the way people write about this genre of porn is terrifying. I don't remember the exact quote, but there was a guy who said, I fell into this porn in my 40s. I was a totally normal guy. I fell into this genre of porn. Within something like 2 years, I couldn't get the idea of becoming a woman out of my head. It's ruined my life. Another person said that it seemed like a military-grade psychological weapon. So I thought, oh my goodness, even when I'm reading about this kind of porn, I don't want too many details because it seems like it's really, really potent. And it would probably help to explain the shocking surge in transgender identity. Unless there's just something in the water that's turning all the frickin' Zoomers trans, not the frogs gay, but the Zoomers trans, then probably there's something to do with this. If your view of sexuality is being totally transformed and that phenomenon is coinciding with everybody looking at increasingly crazy pornography, there might be a connection there. This is what one person...
Look, y'all leave something in the comment section. Does this exist? Is this really a thing, or is he trolling us right now? Like some kind of porn that within 2 years turns you trans? Like what leave it in the comments if this is real or not.
Person said, according to the Feminist Current article, quote, I started watching trans porn initially 5 or so years ago, and I remember I had post-orgasm regret. So, he finished looking at the porn, doing whatever he's going to do, and then he felt shame at that, which is a good feeling to feel when you do something bad. But he says, back then I imagined myself as the guy. About a year and a half ago, I started to imagine the possibility of being the girl in these scenarios. I wanted to be, I'll clean up a little bit of the language here. I was turned on by the submissiveness of it, he says. Then he goes on, this has led me to have some gender dysphoria, as I would love to be the woman and see where that would take me in my life as a fully transitioned trans woman. Too long didn't read, my sexual and gender identity has been completely flipped on its head. Because of this hypnotism type porn. All of which is to say, The White House has just declared that the COVID pandemic is over. Oh, good. That's glad. I'm glad. I'm sure you can all breathe a sigh of relief. I know that you were on the edge of your seats, worried, staying up at night because you were so worried about the COVID pandemic. We were told for years that COVID was the greatest public health crisis in the country. Porn is by far the biggest public health crisis in the country. And it's the one that no one's allowed to talk about. No one who objects to it is allowed to bring it up. And the ruling regime pushes it on everybody. The ruling regime defends porn broadly on free speech grounds, which porn has never been defended on free speech grounds for the whole history of our country until very recently, and the whole history of our civilization until very, very recently. It's obscene material. Obscenity is not protected by free speech laws. But they're going further. They're pushing the porn in libraries and they're pushing the porn in elementary schools. It's a very powerful tool to control people. It's a powerful...
It's true. I don't know if you guys saw that little clip where the boy got up. I can't remember. He's like 12 or 14 or something like that. And he gets up onto the podium in front of like the whole like school or whatever. And he starts reading. He said, "I'd like to read you a passage from a book that I obtained at my school library." And then he starts reading it. And it's like straight up porn. You know, it's like those erotic sex novels that women used to read back in the day. I don't know if they still do, but you know what I mean? Like it was, he caressed my da-da-da-da-da, like that whole, and vulgar, right? And then he says at the end of it, like, I don't know how he read the whole thing. He read this like, you know, a good spiel of it. And it was just cringe to hear him read it, right? And then he said, afterwards, the librarian offered me a graphic novel version of this material. I was shocked. Shocked. I couldn't even believe it. Crazy.
Tool to degrade people. When one looks at porn, one has the reaction that this guy has, looking at a very extreme and particularly degrading form of porn. But it's the same reaction. It's a kind of a shame. Elsewhere in the Feminist Current article, someone said that the very act of looking at pornography is degrading. And so this humiliating and hypnotic type of porn is a kind of meta-pornography, that it's a pornography about what it is to view pornography. And it can take you to really, really weird places. Now, I've tried to speak in vaguer terms about this. One, because mercifully I haven't seen it, so I can't really speak to the details. But two, because I don't want to pique anybody's curiosity. This is powerful, powerful stuff, according to pretty much everyone who's come into contact with it and everyone who's doing research on it. And it would seem clear to me is leading to lots of terrible effects on public health, and little kids are being exposed to it. And we're just dilly-dallying. We're doing nothing about that. We're worried about COVID. Oh no, the kid might catch a cough, which statistically won't do anything to him. What about that? If you've got something warping people's minds that has the objective of degrading people, and you degrade and humiliate a whole people, how are you supposed to have a great country? We're about to enter.
I think that's really the whole, I don't know how he went from, Chris Tyson to trans porn, like weird to even be listening to this. But I think the greater thing is just, hey, keep it away from the kids, right? All of it. Like little kids don't need to be hearing about this. They don't need to know about this. This isn't like something that we should be like guiding them. You know what I mean? Once age appropriate, you should have the standard conversations, as necessary. And then when they are old enough to be able to take in things for themselves and come up with their own conclusions and that kind of thing, then, let them have it. Have be. Go ahead and, live your life and do what you want to do. But keep it out of the schools. Keep it out of, keep our kids' minds from this stuff, man, because he's right. He's right. Public health is an issue. Hey, anyways, this is something different. Michael knows I was just chirping about the MrBeast, his sidekick and the fact that he's married and going through this, and again on TV for all of the children to see and represent his situation. seems weird. My kid doesn't watch Mr. Beast. Sorry, bro. She wouldn't have watched it in the first place, and ain't no way I'm letting her watch it right now until y'all figure out what's going on. Well, period. Anyways, like, comment, share, subscribe, hate it, whatever. Let me know in the comment section. I appreciate y'all. Peace out.